Welcome to AFSPA Talks, a production of the American Foreign Service Protective Association. Each month, we deliver informative health and wellness topics you want to know about, so make sure to subscribe to us on your preferred podcast platform. And if you have any questions about content discussed in this episode, ask them at AFSPA Live, our live Q&A session streaming every last Thursday of the month at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on youtube.com/AFSPA Cares. Now here's your host, Chief Executive Officer Kyle Longton.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of AFSPA Talks. I'm Kyle Longton, and with me as always is...
Maddie Norton.
Maddie, it's August. It feels like the summer has gotten away from us.
It has. It's that time again. It's back to school time.
It is back to school time. Some people are already back to school. We've had a bit of a quiet summer on this podcast side, but we've had our regular prudential webinars. We've had AFSPA Live, and I think as this episode comes out, there's an AFSPA Live on the horizon, right?
There is. It'll be on Thursday, August 27th, 11 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And if you want to know how to participate or watch, everything will be in the show notes. You can submit a question using the form in the show notes, and then you can watch on our YouTube channel at AFSPA Cares. So definitely be on the lookout for that, because we are so excited and we can't wait to have you there.
Absolutely. And even with a late Labor Day this year, we do have some things in the works for September. So I encourage people to visit afspa.org/events to see everything that's coming up on the horizon. We'll be adding things, including, I can't believe we're talking about this already, open season webinars. They're not coming yet. The first one won't be until November 9th when open season actually starts, but we are going to have multiple opportunities for you to join us for full presentations and even some question and answer dedicated sessions, because there are some changes coming next year. Unfortunately, that's just as a tease. I'm not able to share the changes just yet, but I encourage you to check it out. We'll have a lot of information coming soon. And just, please join us for AFSPA Talks episodes, AFSPA Live, and those webinars throughout November and December to get your questions answered. We want to make sure everybody knows exactly what they're signing up for and what the changes are for 2027.
And just in case no one or not everyone knows, when is open season, Kyle?
So glad you asked, and I don't have my calendar pulled up. So it does actually start. It's a little bit longer this year than it typically is. We've got 5 weeks. So it stretches from November 9th, and it does not end until December 14th. It's second Monday to second Monday. So you've got that extra week in there to make your changes, but make your changes early just to make sure the paperwork flows, everything gets in place, because you've got your opportunity to change your health insurance, to change or examine FedVIP, your dental and vision coverage, and the FSA feds. If you're an active employee, you can look at FSA feds. It's a great way to save money, lowers your tax liability for out-of-pocket expenses you're going to have already. And it's also a great time to look at other insurance you might have, whether it's long-term care. We expect the federal government to be announcing something about the federal long-term care insurance program sometime this fall or early winter. It's been 4 years, so we'll see. And then, also to look at life insurance. And actually, just as a preview for next month, I know everybody waits for this to come every year. It's more exciting than Christmas for some of us. Life Insurance Awareness Month is coming in September.
Excited.
That's right. So stay tuned. We've got a lot of programming coming about that for our members. And even if you're not in the market for something new, it's a great time to make sure all of your forms are up to date with beneficiary information and so forth. Not the last time I'm going to say that. Not the last time you're going to hear it from anybody at AFSPA, but maybe the first time this year. So make sure those forms are up to date.
Exactly. We definitely need to make sure that everything is set up correctly, so that in case something unfortunate does happen, your family's taken care of. And that's just a little tease into what September's programming will be about. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But today we have a returning guest, in a way, of the Truman Group, and we're so excited.
Yeah, we are, because it is back to school time. It's also for a lot of our members PCS season, where they're moving to new posts and getting settled at the same time school may be starting. And so today we're talking about back to school. And we're doing so with our longtime friends at the Truman Group. Um, Many of our listeners will be familiar with the Truman Group. We have been working with them. Our members have been working with them even longer, but we've had a relationship with them and a special way of providing benefits for Truman Group services since 2017.
Mhm.
They actually helped us with a pilot program back then. But we also know that our members continue, and a growing number of our members continue to turn to the Truman Group for a lot of their needs, and they're able to help with those needs with members of all ages, including children. They've got a
Mhm.
unique approach with clinicians around the world and a special focus on expats. But we have a first-time guest with us from the Truman Group,
Mhm.
and that's Catherine McLean. So, Maddie, can you tell us a little bit about Catherine before we get her in here for the interview?
Yes. So Catherine is a licensed clinical social worker. She has experience working as a counselor across multiple settings, including outpatient mental health clinics, schools, and private practice. She is passionate about working with people in all stages of life, including children, adolescents, adults, and families. She draws from her experiences as an expat and her knowledge and training in various evidence-based practices such as cognitive behavioral therapy, trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, child parent psychotherapy, and circle of security to treat issues related to attachment, trauma, anxiety, depression, executive functioning, interpersonal issues, parenting stressors, grief, and loss. Catherine's theoretical approach is integrative, and she tailors her therapeutic interventions to meet the individualized needs of her clients. Originally from Connecticut, Catherine used to live and work in Vietnam, and now she is back in Connecticut. And we're so excited to have her on today.
Let's get to it. Catherine, welcome to AFSPA Talks.
Thank you for having me.
We are so glad to have you, especially at this time. We are recording this episode in mid-August, and for many people, it's back to school time. And that often means new schedules, making new friends, figuring out new activities, and managing a lot of stressors and emotions, both for kids and for parents and beyond. But for our Foreign Service Benefit Plan members, this can also be a time of additional, I'll use the word disruption, with families completing PCS, new posts, new languages, and so forth. So, and often that happens not long before the school year starts, or even a few weeks into a new school year. That's a lot to start with. So, before we get into any recommendations on how to ease all these transitions, I wonder if you could talk about some of the challenges that children face around this time of year when they're returning to school.
Absolutely. And I also want to say that I hope some of these recommendations, when parents are hearing this, sound like they've heard it before or they know it already because you know how to do this and your kid knows how to do this. I have a colleague who says if your child's done kindergarten, then they know how to do school. They're prepped for transitions. There just happens to be an extra layer of transitions for our families that are in foreign service. But
Yeah,
yeah, they have quite a bit to contend with switching from the flexibility of summer months back to a more structured routine. Our folks who are internationally mobile, we know summers can be a really busy time as well. So they also might have some extra exhaustion or jet lag to
Yeah.
contend with around this time.
definitely.
Yeah. And there can be another layer of uncertainty for our internationally mobile children. They're getting used to a new place, new teachers, new classroom, new expectations and languages. And sometimes loss of friends from
Mhm.
older posts or loss of a sense of familiarity or belonging in their new environment. And just a whole nother level or layer of having to, like every kiddo at the start of the year, of having to kind of restrain yourself to a certain extent when you're in a structured environment like school. And
Yeah.
that takes a lot of energy, you know.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And in your experience, do you see these challenges manifesting themselves in different ways at different ages? And what should parents look out for as signs of something more than just like a readjustment period?
Right. We definitely see this presenting differently across developmental stages. So for much younger kiddos, like your lower elementary age kiddos, you might see some more externalizing behaviors. There might be additional clinginess or some separation anxiety, some tears saying goodbye, maybe even some tantrums or regressions in sleep or eating patterns. They might suddenly not want to go to school. And as we know, for much younger kiddos, they might not have the language to share that. So you're really paying attention to what their behavior is communicating. For later elementary and middle school age, they might have more concerns around friendship and academic performance at that time and following new expectations. And you might hear things like having headaches or my stomach hurts. And they might have a harder time getting ready in the morning or avoiding getting ready for school in the morning. And they might present as maybe even a lot more irritable or tearful at home. And then for sort of late middle school and high school age kiddos, you might keep an eye out for them internalizing a little bit more. Which again, normal for our teenagers. They start to spend a lot more time on their own, but they might have some changes in sleep or irritability. One big thing to look out for is a loss of interest in activities that they previously enjoyed, like not wanting to go to sports events that they may have liked before or try some different clubs that they may have been interested in. They might be quite anxious about academics or their relationships. And again, all of this, like one of the biggest things I think takeaways is allowing time for a transition and an adjustment period. It's okay if you notice some of these symptoms in a transition period, and it might come at the start of that transition period over the next couple of weeks. Or for some kids, you might see this 2 months into a new school year when the novelty wears off and academic demands sort of intensify. And I would say what you're looking out for is duration and severity when it comes to these symptoms, right? So are they lasting for months and months into the school year? Is school noticing them? Are they concerned and approaching you as well? And how severe, how often they're happening at home is something to keep an eye out for, I should say.
And Kevin, we already touched on this, but I just want to see if there's anything more we should add, because you were personally familiar with expat life, and you're also familiar with counseling people of all ages who are living outside of their home country, including some of our members, I imagine. Is there anything you add to some of the challenges you listed before that families and children in particular might encounter as they're living abroad?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we work with this population with the Truman group. And I was also an elementary school counselor at an international school in Vietnam. So, been working with this population and have to say there are additional challenges. There's also additional protective factors and benefits that we're all aware of from this lifestyle with our kiddos. But some of those additional challenges are just multiple changes all at once. If you're raised in the same space and you're starting a new school year, your house hasn't changed, your family might still be nearby, it might still be the same school in just a different year. And our kids who are moving around internationally, there's a few of those changes all at once. They're figuring out their community, both inside and outside of school. They're getting used to a new school setting, how to get there, what does that look like, getting used to new teachers and kids, languages and culture shock would be something that they're contending with here. And all of those familiar aspects of our environment help us have a sense of belonging. So that might be temporarily something that kids and teens might be contending with until they build that at a new post. And parents are also going through this at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. Another thing we know for kids that helps with that familiarity is their stuff, like their items. And as we know, when you head and get to a new post, you might not get your shipment for months. So anything you can do to help build some of that familiarity and sense of belonging in their environment, I would say to keep an eye out for. And also to note that they're all going through this, and it might present differently if you have multiple kids in the
Yeah.
same family system, right?
Yeah, definitely important to keep, I think, like traditions that you may have had, like if it's the first day of school photo where you're saying, like I've seen different versions of it with like chalkboards or like,
Yeah.
wearing a big shirt that you'll eventually fit into. I think like things like that can help with just providing like a little bit of stability and a little bit of like sense of normalcy, I'll say. Just little things like that that can help with the tradition, like the transition that's happening in so many different changes. Um,
Absolutely.
this next question is in two parts because
Mm.
families may be at different places in their return to school. So first, if school hasn't started yet, what can families do to help prepare for the smoothest transition to school possible?
Okay. And I don't want to overwhelm parents. There's lots of different tips and tricks out there. And maybe it'd be helpful to just note that the goal isn't to make the transition stress free.
Hmm.
That's impossible. But it's to, as you've mentioned with some of those traditions, try to make it as predictable and supportive as possible. So before school starts, if you have a week until school starts now or a couple of weeks, trying to get those routines in order, getting your family back on track with routines around sleep and meals, screen time, starting to set some of those limits that you might have during the school year and help ease them back into their routines. For our younger kiddos, it could be helpful if you have the opportunity to visit school and anything that can help them visualize what it's going to look like mentally. So you can take pictures of them. They love seeing themselves in a social story, pictures of them outside of the school or how they get to school in their classroom, um, putting something physical together for them that they can look at and start to visualize what it's going to look like for them physically. And then for middle and high school, a lot of our international schools have some nice opportunities for an orientation, or they might have a buddy system. Um, it's really useful for them to hear from a peer as opposed to another adult. So if you
Right.
can get them connected to a peer who they can ask questions to and start to build some connection with, that can be useful. It can also help to visit the school with them and show them what does transportation look like? How do they get there? Is it on a motorbike? Is it walking? Is it driving? Is it on a bus? So they can picture that. And the orientation might help with some anxiety around finding their classes. Typically in middle and high school, it might be, especially middle school, their first time going from class to class. A lot of the middle schoolers I sit with seem to feel quite anxious about that. So if school has an opportunity for them to do a walkthrough, that could be quite helpful before they start.
Absolutely. I was very anxious about starting middle school and I kind of was like, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know, mom. And mom made sure that I did like a walkthrough and we went to every class I had. We made sure I could get into my locker and just did like a whole like this is what your day will look like. And it immensely made me feel better. Like I was so excited to start the day instead of feeling anxious. So definitely would try and make sure that you can do something like that, especially for like middle school, like you said, and just getting back into that routine and letting the kids know this is what it'll look like. Like we may be in a different place, different school, but some of the things are still the same.
Right.
Um, and for the second part of the question, if school has already started, how can families best set themselves up for the rest of the year?
It's a great question. It's a big one,
Yeah.
that question. So I want to remind parents to take some of the pressure off. Adjustment isn't an event, it's a process. Like this is going to be a process for them and for families. So I think continuing to check in with kids, and I put together and sent along a infographic with some unique low pressure ways to check in with your kids. Some ways to do that would be ask a question that every member in the family can answer, right? You're sitting at the dinner table. You don't need to just ask the child or your individual child. You can ask questions that everyone can answer. What was the highlight of your day? What was the challenge today? I put a lot of fun ones you might remember from summer camp on there, like rose and thorn or sunshine, cloud, rainbow, or a nice one for our, if you're at a new post, would be everyone saying what was something familiar that you encountered today and what was something new that you encountered today. But low pressure check-ins, keeping those part, maybe incorporating them as part of your routines and rituals. We really want to keep routines as predictable as possible at school. So at least if, I mean, at home, at least if school is a bit unpredictable, kids know what home feels like and looks like in the afternoon and the evenings. Connecting and remaining connected to past relationships, I think, is a big one. I've had a lot of kids or sat with kids who might say something along the lines of, I can't be friends with who I was friends with at my last post because I need to make new friends. And I think we're here to, as adults, to show them that we have enough room for both to happen. And those past relationships really help with this continuity of identity and for our kids. So if you can put that as part of the routine, on Sundays we're going to call grandma, or oh, on Saturdays I heard that your friend's available. How about you guys play a game together online from this time to this time? Might be quite helpful for kids. And once school has started, kids are just really sometimes overwhelmed with the amount of demands that are placed on them. So it's okay to reduce demands at home the first couple of weeks, maybe to talk as a family about what that looks like, to give them space to rest and integrate all of the information that they're trying to remember or coming across in their day.
Yeah. I have two rising fifth graders, and I remember when they first started coming home from first grade, there would be, they don't listen to this, I feel safe sharing this. There would be major meltdowns every day because they'd been holding everything inside all day and finally could let it out. And we went through that with our younger, now rising second grader as well. So we still do the rosebud and thorn. Oftentimes my kids' thorn is that we have to do rosebud and thorn, but if that's the worst thing that happens in a day, I'm very glad. So and Catherine, I just want to ask, you've already touched on this, but anything more you'd add about families who are going through major changes, whether it's a new country, a different language, even just moving from elementary to middle to high school, or maybe even if an older sibling is gone and gone to college and there's younger siblings left at home dealing with that absence.
Right. In this lifestyle, actually just in life in general for our kids, there's so many opportunities or different examples of change. Like we even just mentioned a few right there. And it can feel overwhelming. I can imagine families listening to this now can think of their own individual circumstances that their child is going through. So generally just zooming out, again, as much predictability as possible, checking in with them. In terms of checking in with them, I think permission in families to allow for feelings and for more than one feeling to be happening at the same time is really important. Your kid could be excited about being the only kid at home now that their older sibling's gone off to college, and also really sad that their sibling went off to college. So allowing for those feelings. I think also checking in with our own feelings as parents, because if we are anxious about this going well for our kids, like we are always anxious for our children,
Yeah.
it might result in checking in too much. Are we checking in for our own reassurance, or are we trying to connect with our kiddo? Or the opposite, it could result in avoidance and not asking those feelings and just hoping, please be okay for their children. So I'd say those general themes of allowing room for emotions and also allowing room for connection before you correct behaviors, since we know that kids communicate to us often through their behaviors. So connect first, like, what's going on? I've noticed you're acting differently these days, or I noticed you did this, that's not okay. We'll get to that, but what is going on for you right now? Connect with them first. I think those are some of the bigger themes to stick with in each of these individual examples or situations.
Absolutely. And we also have a significant number of members and hopefully listeners who are teachers at schools on US bases around the world. Do you have any thoughts to share with teachers specifically?
Oh, yes, I do. Working in a school is one of the most, I think, exhausting jobs I've ever worked, like mentally, physically, and teachers, you are holding a lot. And I think similar to what we were saying earlier in this talk, and actually, before I go into that too, I put together another sort of infographic for parents that there's an acronym called RAFT that I think David Pollock and Ruth Van Reken put together for leaving a post and saying goodbyes. So I put together one called Anchor just to help parents remember some of the things we're talking about. And they apply for teachers too. Allow time. This is a transition. It's an adjustment period. Notice your own anxiety. Check in with yourself. Connect before correcting. Hold on to relationships and routines. Is really important for teachers too. Who grounds you in your life? Who can you connect with if this is a new chapter for you, if you're in a new country as well? Open opportunities for belonging. This one's huge for teachers too. You need or might benefit from community outside of school or work as well. Where do you get a sense of belonging? Is it just in school and work, or can you join a club? Can you organize some kind of outside of school event to just increase your sense of belonging in different realms outside of work? And then the R is reducing the load. So teachers as well, you have so many demands at the start of the school year. You might hear reduce the load and think that's absolutely impossible. How am I supposed to do that at the start of the school year? Get it. But if you can have some boundaries around bringing work home, and if there's anything that you can leave at work and focus on yourself after school, please do that. And do that in the classroom. Like the first couple of weeks are focusing on relationships and routines and your community within your classroom. So you think you need that too,
Excellent.
Yeah.
And Catherine has you very graciously offered to share those infographics with us. So I'll encourage our listeners and viewers, please check the show notes, and we'll have links to those, and so you can anchor yourself to those, and use them for reference. Whether parent, teacher, child, whoever may be listening. And so, Catherine, before we really wrap up, I want to get a little bit more information for those tuning in. How they can get help if they feel like they need some outside help, either on their own, one or two family members, or the whole family unit. So could you talk a little bit about what services the Truman Group offers?
Absolutely. I'm also one of the intake coordinators with the Truman Group. So if you reach out, you might be meeting with me or some of our lovely other intake coordinators. And the way you can do that is through our website at trumangroup.com. You can press the Get Started button and fill out the inquiry form and book an appointment. Or you can directly email inquiries@trumangroup.com. And we treat individuals, families, and couples. So if there's more than one family member, that's okay. They can meet together. They can have their own individual practitioner. And we also offer psychiatric services and psychological testing for kids and adults. the psychological
Excellent.
testing. So please reach out. Obviously, we are an outpatient level of care, and we are telehealth. So we do see children, but part of the intake is making sure we're an appropriate level for care and that they can engage online. If you feel that your child can't engage online or they might need a higher level of care, you can, reach out to the RMOPs. They're a really helpful first point of reference if you're seeing more significant symptoms and you need some resources or referrals.
Right.
And I know FSYF.org also has a lot of resources on their youth mental health tab. That is an invaluable page, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So, and I'd encourage people to check out the Foreign Service Youth Foundation. It just generally, fantastic resources there. I will note that as far as Foreign Service Benefit Plan is concerned, Truman Group, we do consider that telemedicine, so you will have some sort of out of pocket with your deductible and a copay, but we do treat Truman Group as an in-network provider, so they'll be covered at that higher 90% and subject to the in-network calendar year deductible. We recognize the value Truman Group brings in the unique role that they can play for our members outside the United States. And Catherine, just before we finish, is there anything you'd like to add for our audience?
No, I just think I really hope that you, as parents, also and our kids enjoy this time. I know it's a time of stress and anxiety. There will you have some tips. You can work with schools if these symptoms progress at all in frequency or intensity, and overall, like creating your patterns and routines in this really exciting time in a new year, possibly at a new post, possibly in a new country. So I just hope that everyone enjoys it and that you remember if you need support, that there is support out there.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for joining us for AFSPA Talks.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Catherine McLean for joining us and to everyone at the Truman Group for their partnership in caring for FSBP members around the world. For more information about the Truman Group, please visit trumangroup.com or click the link in the show notes for today's episode. This has been AFSPA Talks, a production of the American Foreign Service Protective Association. All information offered in this podcast is meant to be educational. The views expressed by the hosts and guests do not necessarily represent AFSPA. Should there be any discrepancy between information offered in this podcast and official plan documents for the Foreign Service Benefit Plan or other products offered by AFSPA and its partners, the policy provisions will prevail. Thanks for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to AFSPA Talks on your favorite podcasts app to catch all future episodes. Please rate and review us on your favorite app and stay up to date on all things AFSPA on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Look for AFSPA Cares. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks for listening to this episode of AFSPA Talks. Be sure to subscribe to our channel so you'll never miss an episode. If you have any follow-up questions about the topics in this episode, join our AFSPA Live Q&A session on the last Thursday of every month. We will be streaming live at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/AFSPA Cares. Thanks for listening.